Welcome back to Simply Trade Tips with Hammer and Heels, otherwise known as Julie Parks and Renee and Julie. Okay, so Jules, how you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Beginning of the year, we're kicking it out. Julie and I are going to leave you with a call to action, or FIO, we call it, figure it out, in a really short period of time. So stay with us. We give you a lot of good information, digestible in a short period of time. So, Jewel, I think we're on Series 5, Episode 5, Double Five.
Double fives. I
But
like it.
what are we covering today in this episode?
Hey, so I think we need to talk about something that doesn't get enough attention. And I know it's at the heart of your core, Renee. So I think we should go with learning today.
Oh, yeah, that's my favorite. As you know, I love to teach and learn. So a little bit more. This is going to be a really fun episode for me, but let's get into the details of learning. So when trade rules are constantly shifting, as we know, tariff shift, executive orders, enforcement priorities, we know are changing like crazy with CBP. But a lot of companies are relying on static training, tribal knowledge, and guess what? That leaves us some gaps. We know learning falls behind, especially when you're going 100 miles an hour and you're like, oh my God, I got to get this out. I got to get this unicorn. I got to get this thing into, Abu Dhabi for a big trade show. You don't have time, right? So compliance errors show up and fines and delays and things follow.
Hey, so Renee, why does learning need automation?
Well, training is generally, as we know, on demand, not a component of what we're doing in our daily operations, which is kind of interesting if you think about it, right? We're like, hey, I'm going to take a day and I'm going to do some training. We do things like webinars, including awareness trainings. We bring people into rooms in the company. We train on new policies, but it's not in your daily operations.
I agree. And I think it's a good point that it's kind of disconnected from your work, although valuable still. You kind of take a pause, you see what webinars might be out there and you might join. But the learning is really, it can either be accessible on your internal platforms, shared drives. But really, I think we're going to talk about today, how do you make it actionable using that technology?
Yeah, I agree. And as we know, the trade environment, especially like in today's environment, it's changing every 8 hours. So we need to adapt. Adapt or die is what I say.
I know, right? So tariffs, trade remedies, country-specific rules, the knowledge gap becomes that operational risk that we kind of want to close.
So what does automation and trade actually mean to us and to our audience?
So what we think is going on in the world out there is that we're doing a better job. Automation allows you to embed learning into the workflow itself. So while you're working, it's kind of this on-demand piece. It's triggered by what you're doing, not on a scheduled calendar. So we still need a bank of topics related to calendar training. We'll definitely never get away from that. But I think what we're seeing is this inflow training. Like while you're working, you're keying in an origin, and you're like, "What is origin?" And then you can go take that tutorial.
Yeah. So we have Julie and I made up 2 words. We always do. Calendar training is like the scheduled training, and then our inflow is things like unicorn of the day. Like we used to have that a lot at our prior company. We would have many unicorns, and a lot of times people call their managers, which is great, but sometimes the manager's not available. And so this type of training would be, hey, I have a unicorn of the day. There's some country of origin issue, and then boom, something would pull up, right?
Yeah.
And it challenges the professionals, the trade team and professionals to, challenge themselves a little bit.
Or your friends, right? Your hobbyists that are out there doing trade. So I think the key here is that with automation, the learning will become contextual, it'll become continuous, it'll become measurable.
Great. So, Julie, how about giving us some examples?
So I think that learning in the case of you're working in your SAP system and you're specifically going to click on a field and hover over it, and then the learning that appears is not just something that, like, you have to curate and the trade people need to create. A lot of this can be created using AI from a lot of the, sources that you already have. So, have you done focus training in the past? Maybe you can feed that to your AI and kinda spit out something that's a little more succinct to kinda load into these tools. So that's just one example. Renee, do you have more?
Yes. So we've got role-based learning paths for importers and exporters and compliance teams. Like, for example, what's your role? Are you
Mm,
an audit? So then you would be trained on audit. Micro learnings triggered by errors that we're finding, which would be awesome as we're updating standard operating procedures. Um, those are kind of inflow learnings. And then embedded guidance and classification, origin, and filing tools. We know that some automated tools are doing this. And we know this too. Hyperlinks with search engines. We actually have that available to us
yeah.
in different web-based tools.
Right, right. And a lot of the AI
So
that's actually powering your back end, like of, let's say, free trade agreement pieces, that I'll call it when you train the baby with the data, that training the baby data can also be used to give in a more succinct fashion, in a more real time fashion to the people that are needing it at the time they need it.
yeah, and so instead of relying on memory, we're double checking ourselves, we're validating, we're verifying, and it supports the decision in real time. I know when I was managing teams of people, I found that decision making is difficult on the spot. Some people, their confidence is like, oh, this is a big deal. I better make sure. So I think that's great that this inflow real time can give the operator, the trade professional, more confidence.
Right. Right. And I think too that to your point, like reducing those repeat errors. You're not retraining everyone, but you're kind of reinforcing the specific where it matters. So you're kind of getting at the heart of the person that might not know, or something like that.
So why we know how why do we think this is becoming urgent, this type of
Right.
change and
Gosh,
training?
I mean, I think it's a part of, what the enforcement agencies are looking for. They want companies to demonstrate reasonable care, whatever the global term is. It does include training and awareness, and it's not just for your broker to kind of have reasonable supervision. It's up to
Yeah.
importers at this point, to kind of make sure. And let's face it, the import teams, based on all of our previous discussions, aren't staffed maybe appropriately, so they're leveraging hobbyists externally, and those hobbyists need to be trained. And training them real time, I think, is the best way to do it than in a herd, when perhaps there's something else on their mind.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, when it's automated,
Mm,
like, I know some companies have a learning management system, we'll get in that, but you can keep track of who's trained on what
mm,
topic, when,
yeah,
and, like, like we talked about, maybe there's errors, that or updating of SOPs, we can keep track
mhm,
of that type of training, like, in connection with decisions people are making.
right. And how powerful that is that in, like, using it in an audit and an investigation, like, to see how many hits people had in kind of that real time in cycle learning, right?
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, if you can have customs coming in the room and you're like, "Hey, here's what we got." So who benefits from this approach?
Yeah, so I think it's generally in this world, right? Importers, it's all about the kind of the tariffs and duties, but mostly importers, I think, with complex supply chains. I think exporters that manage controlled goods, but maybe not everything is controlled goods, so that their system can kind of alert you or warn you when you have those control goods. I think brokers onboarding new staff, right? Because it can be in cycle. I think legal and finance teams who need trade awareness of like the operations piece without becoming experts.
Yeah. And I think I've kind of alluded to this. You can scale the expertise with decision making. You might have two subject matter experts because they're doing this on the job inflow training real time, and you're
Mhm.
not always taking the time of one maybe SME, which
Right,
is really helpful in an operational
right.
perspective.
Totally critical given how hard it is to hire, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's get back to learning as an infrastructure. The big idea here is the learning isn't just a side activity anymore, right? That's
Right,
what Julie and I are trying to say. That's the moral of the story. We
right. It really is infrastructure. It's like filing systems or audit controls, like, it's a key component.
Yeah, and it doesn't replace real expertise, as we know,
Mhm.
but we need it. And I believe even our calendar training, where you're sitting and digesting facts on a regular basis, we still need that, like we said.
Right. And I think in global trade, right, the cost of knowing isn't like a theoretical piece. It actually shows up on entries, on exports, balance sheets now. So it's not theoretical anymore. It's you got to know at the time that you're working on it.
Yeah, and actually, in this environment, isn't it interesting? You really are tested on how much you know this
Right.
past year.
But, you know,
So, okay.
I love going back to gosh, I love a good old fashioned valuation case. I like to kind of discuss because we haven't, and here I got my wish, right?
Yeah, you got your wish. Okay, so when learning keeps the pace with trade, compliance stops being reactive, and most people say gets proactive, but we're going to say it gets resilient.
Mhm.
And then GTC, I have to plug GTC, obviously. We've already started doing this type of inflow real time training. We have these advanced mini courses where it's a hybrid. It's a 3-day course. You get with the instructor live asking questions. You have a e-learning. You have your own thing that you're doing online to educate yourself prior maybe to the live Q&A. And then, of course, I think our podcast is what we do now is kind of live, training. And Julie and I did a webinar, and we have some things on the horizon that we're doing at GTC that's going to really replicate this kind of inflow training to help balance out the calendar training. But anyway, Jewel, what is our FIO?
So I actually think folks probably need to dip their toe into an education company, right? So like Global Training Center, and essentially like go peek and see what is out there, how you should be adapting your current training. You could also reach out to your software provider and kind of. I think it's up to us to demand that they kind of take what we have and put it in, embedded into the tools that we're using all the time. So take a moment,
Yeah.
guys. Do your research.
All right. All right. Thanks for listening. Come to our community, Trade Geeks, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Renee.
Thanks, Jewel.